The morning felt like something out of a movie. Sunlight poured through the hotel windows, casting a soft glow on everything. My bridesmaids were buzzing around, sipping champagne, laughing, helping me into my dress. It should have been the happiest day of my life. I was marrying Dylan, the man who once held my hand during my biopsy results, who knew how I liked my coffee without asking, who made up dumb songs just to make me smile. I kept telling myself I was lucky, blessed even. But beneath the joy, something inside me felt still. Lauren, my maid of honor, looked flawless, like always. She floated around the suite in her pale satin robe, checking playlists, fluffing my train, tossing compliments left and right. And then Dylan walked in. Just for a second, said he couldn't stay away. Everyone cheered. I turned to him, expecting his eyes to find mine. But they didn't. They went straight to Lauren, and she smiled at him in a way I hadn't seen before. It wasn't friendly. It was knowing. Like there was a story I wasn't part of. I told myself to stop overthinking. Not today. Today was about love, about vows, about us. Maybe I was just nervous. But then one of the stylists, completely innocent, completely unaware, leaned in and said with a giggle, "They make such a cute couple. Wait, aren't you the bride?" And just like that, something in me shifted. The laughter faded into static. The seed of doubt took root in a single sentence. I smiled, or at least I think I did. That polite, automatic kind of smile you give when someone says something awkward and you don't want to make it worse. Inside, though, I felt like I was sliding, not falling, not crashing, just slowly, quietly slipping into a space where nothing felt real. Lauren brushed it off with a laugh, saying something about how Dylan and she used to joke like siblings, but I didn't remember that joke. And suddenly, I couldn't remember a lot of things. Or maybe I remembered too much. Like the night Dylan said he had to stay late at work, but his shirt smelled faintly of perfume I didn't wear. Or the time I asked him to come cake tasting with me, and he said Lauren already helped narrow down the options. I thought he was just being helpful, saving time. But now, those memories had sharp edges. They didn't sit right anymore. My chest felt tight in my dress, not from the corset, from something heavier, something colder. Doubt doesn't scream. It whispers. It rewrites everything in silence. Still, I didn't say a word. I laughed when I was supposed to, posed for the photos, made toasts. I played the role of the glowing bride, like I had rehearsed it my whole life. Because what else could I do? Cancel the wedding over a look? Over a comment? Over a feeling? No one would believe me. Not yet. So I tucked the suspicion away, deep into the folds of white satin and denial. But even as I walked toward the next moment, I could feel it. That this day was no longer just mine. The rest of the day moved like a montage. Hairspray clouds, hugs from relatives I barely knew, endless camera flashes. I smiled through all of it. I smiled so hard my cheeks started to ache. But in quiet moments, when no one was looking, I caught myself watching them. Dylan and Lauren. The way they stood just a little too close, how their laughter always overlapped, how her hand brushed his arm like she forgot I was in the room. Or maybe she didn't forget. Maybe she just didn't care. At one point, I saw them whispering near the champagne table, his hand resting on her back in that possessive way. She laughed, tossed her hair, then glanced toward me. And that's when I knew. Something was real. I didn't have proof. Not yet. But my gut wouldn't let it go. It kept looping the stylist's words in my head like a cursed melody. "Aren't you the bride?" God, that sentence clung to me like smoke. I couldn't unhear it. I couldn't unsee their faces when they thought no one was watching. And yet, I said nothing. Not to my mom, not to my bridesmaids, not even to Lauren. I just watched and waited. My heart was screaming, but my lips stayed sealed. I needed to be sure, absolutely, painfully sure, before I let this day unravel. Because something told me, if there was truth behind what I felt, it wouldn't stay buried for long. And that night, alone with his iPad on the bed, I'd find out just how deep the rot really went. The hotel room was quiet that night. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your ears ring and your thoughts louder than they should be. Dylan was in the shower, humming like nothing in the world could touch him. And me? I was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in my robe, staring at his iPad on the nightstand like it might bite. I didn't plan to snoop. I wanted to be wrong. God, I wanted to be wrong. But my hands moved before my doubt could stop them. No passcode. He never set one. He said he had nothing to hide. That used to feel comforting. Tonight, it felt like a dare. I opened his messages. The screen lit up with blue and gray bubbles, hundreds of them. And there she was, Lauren. Not buried deep, not months ago. Right there at the top. I clicked. My breath caught. My fingers went numb. The messages weren't vague. They weren't innocent. They were intimate, current, ongoing, like I didn't even exist. Photos, late-night texts, flirty comments, inside jokes, plans. My stomach twisted as I scrolled, each word landing like a slap. Miss you already. Wish you were here instead. Don't let her suspect anything. Her. Me. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even blink. I just sat there, holding his betrayal in my hands like it was made of glass. Fragile, beautiful, and so damn dangerous. And just like that, the illusion of my wedding shattered, silently, without a sound. I don't know how long I sat there, scrolling. 10 minutes? An hour? Time didn't feel real anymore. It was like watching my own life from the outside, like I was trapped behind a glass wall screaming at a version of myself that couldn't hear me. And through all of it, I stayed quiet. My breathing shallow, my hands trembling. I didn't throw the iPad. I didn't scream. I just kept reading. Message after message, date after date, while he showered and sang like he wasn't dismantling everything we'd built. I found screenshots. I sent them to myself. Every text, every photo, every cruel little detail. I created a private folder and backed it up. Not because I needed proof for anyone else. I needed it for me. To remind myself I wasn't crazy. That I hadn't imagined the shift, the distance, the way her name always popped up at the worst moments. The evidence felt like armor. Like maybe, just maybe, I could make it through the next day if I had something solid to hold on to. Because I wasn't done yet. Not even close. When he stepped out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, grinning like we were just two people in love on the night before forever, I smiled, and I lied. Can't believe we're finally doing this, I said, kissing him on the cheek. But inside, I was no longer the bride. I was the reckoning in white lace, and he had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I looked in the mirror and saw someone I didn't recognize. My face was calm, my makeup flawless, my smile practiced to perfection. But behind my eyes, fire. A quiet, slow-burning fire that refused to be extinguished. I didn't feel broken. I felt focused. Like every step I took down that aisle wouldn't be about love. It would be about truth. And maybe that truth would hurt. Maybe it would shock. But it would be mine to deliver. I watched him getting dressed, fumbling with his cufflinks, joking with his groomsmen like this was just another beautiful day. Lauren floated around the venue, radiant, untouched by guilt. She even winked at me once. Winked. As if we were all still playing pretend and I hadn't just walked through the wreckage of her betrayal. I smiled back, and I don't think she noticed the shift. But I wasn't Rachel, the trusting fiancé, anymore. I was Rachel, the woman who knew everything, and who chose, with absolute clarity, not to fall apart. As the music began and guests rose to their feet, I stepped into the light, veil in place, bouquet in hand, heart in pieces. But my spine? Steel. Every eye was on me. Every heartbeat in sync with mine. And as I walked toward Dylan, I didn't carry love in my steps. I carried proof. I carried silence. I carried a secret about to erupt. The ceremony was perfect. Too perfect. The kind of perfection that feels like it's trying to cover something up. Flowers lined every aisle. The sun hit just right. People dabbed tears before anything had even been said. I walked slowly, letting the moment breathe, holding on to every second like it was borrowed. Dylan looked stunned when he saw me, like he'd forgotten I could still take his breath away. He smiled, that practiced, charming smile I used to adore. But now all I saw was someone who thought he got away with it. The efficient welcomed everyone, cracked a gentle joke, got a few laughs. I barely heard him. My ears were filled with heartbeat, my own, thunderous, determined. I glanced at the front row. My mom, blinking back emotion, my aunt, whispering something sweet, and Lauren, standing there in her blush pink dress, holding my bouquet with steady hands. She looked proud, smug even, like she had already won something. And I wanted so badly to let her believe that, just for one last moment. Then came the question. Do you, Rachel, take Dylan to be your lawfully wedded husband? I turned to him. Slowly. He smiled. So sure. So safe in the lie. And into the microphone, with the weight of every broken promise resting in my throat, I said, I do, except that you cheated on me with the maid of honor. It was like the air got sucked out of the room. For a second, no one moved. No one breathed. I could hear the distant chirp of a bird outside before I could hear another voice in that space. Then came the gasps, a wave of them. My mom covered her mouth. Someone dropped a phone. The officiant blinked like he misheard me, like surely this was some kind of joke. But I didn't laugh. I didn't flinch. I just stood there looking Dylan in the eye, daring him to say something, to deny it. His jaw unhinged slightly, but no sound came out. His hands twitched like he wasn't sure what to do with them. Lauren, she went white, not pale, white, like every drop of blood had abandoned her all at once. She stared at me, lips parted, eyes wide, bouquet trembling in her hands. I almost pitied her, but not quite. I waited for Dylan to speak, but he didn't. Not a single word. Just that open-mouthed silence, like a man caught mid-lie with no script to fall back on. Whispers erupted like wildfire. I heard my name. Her name. The word cheated bouncing around like a rubber bullet. A few people started recording. Others looked away, unsure of the etiquette for watching a bride burn down her own ceremony. I stayed steady, grounded, like this was the plan all along. Because it was. This wasn't a meltdown. It was a message, and I hadn't finished delivering it yet. I handed the microphone back to the officiant like it was a finished speech, like I hadn't just lit a match and dropped it in the middle of a fairy tale. He didn't know what to do with it. Poor man looked like he wanted to vanish into the floral arch behind him. Dylan finally spoke, barely above a whisper. Rachel, wait. But what was there to wait for? The truth was out. The illusion was dead. And in that moment, I didn't owe him, or her, a damn thing. Lauren opened her mouth too, as if some apology was forming, but I didn't let it land. I looked at her, really looked at her, and it hit me how well she'd played it. My best friend, my confidant, the woman who helped me choose my dress and cried during the vows she knew were fake. I almost admired the audacity, but admiration doesn't survive betrayal. It withers. It dies. And so did any part of me that still wanted to believe they were sorry. I turned toward the guests, all still frozen in disbelief, and gave them what they came for. A bride, in white, telling the truth when it mattered most. No theatrics, no breakdowns, just clarity. And then I placed the bouquet back in Lauren's hands. I think this belongs to you, I said, and walked away before anyone else could take my voice. The moment I turned my back on that altar, everything softened. Not in a weak way, in a freeing way. Like I'd just kicked off shoes that never quite fit. My hands were still steady. My heart, oddly calm. The crowd behind me erupted into a blur of murmurs, camera shutters, and gasps. But I didn't look back. That wasn't my scene anymore. That chapter was done. I lifted the hem of my dress with one hand and walked out, slow and sure, like I was leaving behind smoke and stepping into air. I could hear someone calling my name. Maybe my mom, maybe one of the bridesmaids. But I didn't stop. I didn't need comfort. I didn't need explanations. I needed distance and peace. The heavy doors opened in front of me like they knew what I needed, sunlight hitting me full in the face as if the universe had been waiting for me to finally walk into it. Outside, the breeze felt different, honest, like it didn't owe me anything but clarity. And there she was, Amanda, my real best friend. The one who'd quietly stepped down as maid of honor months ago without making a scene. The one who said, "Something's off about Lauren," and I hadn't listened. She stood by the car, keys in hand, wearing a smirk that made me want to laugh and cry all at once. "You good?" she asked. I nodded. No words, just a knowing look between women who've seen the fire and walked right through it. Amanda didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She opened the passenger door like she was opening a new chapter, and I climbed in without hesitation. As soon as we pulled away, the chaos behind us grew smaller in the rearview mirror, just another mess I no longer had to clean up. I took a deep breath and let it out slow, like I'd been holding it since the day Dylan proposed. My dress was wrinkled, my lipstick slightly smudged, and still, I'd never felt more beautiful, or more myself. The notifications started pouring in. Texts, missed calls, even screenshots from guests who were already posting the moment online. I ignored them. Let the world do what it does. Gossip, speculate, react. Let Lauren and Dylan figure out how to spin it, if they even dared. I didn't need to defend myself. The truth had done that for me. Amanda glanced over and asked if I wanted music. "Something loud," I said, leaning my head back, finally exhaling the weight of two liars. She laughed and turned up the volume. A beat dropped. Something with attitude and bite. I smiled for real. The kind that comes from somewhere deeper than your cheeks, somewhere near survival. Amanda handed me a to-go coffee she'd stashed in the cup holder, my favorite order. "Thought you might need this," she said. And just like that, I remembered what loyalty felt like. Not the fake kind hidden in bouquets and champagne flutes. The real kind, brewed strong, no sugarcoat. We drove in silence for a while, letting the city blur past us. I stared out the window, watching people on sidewalks, living their lives, sipping coffee, walking dogs, completely unaware that someone had just walked out of her own wedding without a single tear. And maybe that's what hit me most. I didn't feel broken. I felt awake. Like I'd finally stepped out of a fog I didn't know I'd been living in. The lie was heavy, the truth, so much lighter. Amanda reached over and gave my hand a quick squeeze. Nothing dramatic, just a reminder. I looked down at my lap, at the lace I'd once dreamed of wearing for the perfect I do, and I realized something. I didn't toss the bouquet. I didn't fake a smile for photos or pretend my heart hadn't been turned into collateral damage. I didn't cling to a fantasy just because it was dressed in white. I let it all go. Every ribbon, every vow, every carefully arranged illusion. And as we hit the freeway, the sun streaming through the windshield like some divine exit spotlight, my phone buzzed again. A message from someone I barely knew. "Is this real? Were you really that bride?" I didn't respond. Not yet. Because the truth hadn't finished speaking. It was only just getting started. I didn't plan to post anything. At first, I just wanted to disappear for a while, regroup, rest, maybe pretend I'd never worn the dress in the first place. But the screenshots stared back at me from my inbox like they were begging for release. And the more I read them, the angrier I became. Not just at Dylan, not just at Lauren, but at myself, for almost marrying someone who saw me as a placeholder, a convenience, a cover. So I did what I do best. I told the truth. No names, no location, just the story, word for word, from the champagne toast to the altar confession. I uploaded the screenshots, cropped, time-stamped, anonymized. I wrote one caption: "Trust your gut, even when it ruins the picture." And then I logged off. I didn't check back until the next morning. By then, the post had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments, women sharing their own almost wedding disasters. Men chiming in with, "You dodged a bullet," memes, tweets, even a podcast episode dissecting the layers of betrayal and the sheer boldness of calling it out at the altar. My story wasn't just a wedding gone wrong anymore. It had become a symbol. And Dylan? Lauren? They couldn't hide from it. Their photos were everywhere. Not our engagement shots. The real ones. The ones they sent each other. The ones they never imagined would surface. They tried to spin it, of course. Claimed it was complicated, that I was overreacting, that the messages were taken out of context. But the internet doesn't forget. And worse for them, it doesn't forgive. People dug up old posts, matched dates, found their little flirty comments hiding in plain sight. Wedding blogs that once featured our engagement took their photos down. Lauren lost brand deals. Dylan's company made a quiet announcement about internal restructuring. I didn't gloat, not publicly, but I watched. Oh, I watched. Somewhere in all of it, I realized I hadn't just exposed a betrayal. I'd reclaimed my narrative. For years, I'd been the peacemaker, the fixer, the one who smoothed everything over. But this time, I let the cracks show. And instead of breaking me, they made something new. Stronger. Clearer. I started getting messages from women asking for advice. How to spot red flags. How to stay sane during wedding planning. How to walk away with dignity. And every time I answered, I felt lighter. Amanda was the one who said it first. "You know, you could actually do something with this." I laughed at first. Me? The runaway bride turned cautionary tale? But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I knew the industry. I knew the pressure. And I knew firsthand what it felt like to stand at the edge of forever and decide, no, not like this. So I opened my laptop, created a name, bought a domain, and started building something no one could take from me. 6 months later, I cut the ribbon on my boutique bridal consultancy, a cozy little space lined with gowns, mood boards, and a sign at the front that reads, "Your day, your terms." Brides come in nervous, overwhelmed, scared to speak up. I know that feeling too well. But they leave different. Taller, steadier, louder. Because now they have someone who won't let them second-guess their instincts. Someone who's walked to the altar and chosen herself instead. I still wear white sometimes, not out of irony, but as a reminder. White doesn't belong to liars. It doesn't belong to fairy tales. It belongs to women who rise. Women who refuse to stay quiet when something feels wrong. Women who choose truth over optics. And the best part? I'm not alone anymore. What started as a painful confession has become a community, a movement. Proof that one ruined wedding doesn't ruin you. It reveals you. And in my case, it revealed everything I was meant to become. No, I didn't walk away with a husband. I walked away with freedom. And a voice louder than betrayal. And now, when someone asks if I regret it, I just smile and say, I do. Know everything.